Hello and welcome. So this is part 11 of 32 of my NFL ranking series, and for this one we have the Washington Commanders. Now, the Washington Commanders finished last year with 7 wins, and this is just a team where there was a lot going on behind the scenes as well. I mean, they were in between trying to figure out who their quarterback was. While they did have Taylor Heinicke, he played all right. I still think they were basically trying to look to the future to see who their quarterback would be. They had all the issues with Dan Snyder and everything. They had some issues with their field. There was rumors that the team might be moving towards the end of the season to a different location. So this is a team that, with everything going on, honestly, Ron Rivera did a good job of keeping the team together and getting them to honestly take a step forward than they usually do in the years past. Because usually when looking at this team, everyone kind of saw this team as a little bit of a laughing stock. They look a little bit more respectable. While they still have a ways to go, this team definitely looks a little bit more respectable. And they're starting to put some small things together. So when it comes to my play as of last year, like you can see, they were a little bit competitive in some games, and then yet again, like almost every other team, and I would say more often than some other teams, they just struggled for the most part. And I would say this mainly became from their offense, because if you look at their defense, they've worked a lot to improve their defense and make it a lot more respectful, so that their defense definitely took the step up this year, but they need to still do a lot better, because you can see they gave up 56 against the Cowboys that one game. 2 weeks before to the Cowboys, they gave up 43 against Buffalo. So their defense showed the promise of being able to get turnovers and get the stops. They just need to do it at a bit more of a consistent level. And when it comes to the offense, I mean, they have an upgrade this year going into the season. They got Carson Wentz at quarterback. So compared to Taylor Heinicke, I think he's definitely an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke, but based on the way he played for the Colts last year, he was so inconsistent that it kind of fits for this Washington team. So if they are able to get a good Carson Wentz this year, they could go a long way, because offensively, I think they're all right. They could definitely do a little bit better when it comes to their core, but they have some names on offense where they can get some stuff done. It's just they need to be a little bit more consistent, because, I mean, if you look at their schedule, it was loss, win, then 4 losses in a row, 4 wins in a row, 4 losses in a row, and then a win. I mean, that's not... They were consistent, but just in a bad way of being inconsistent, just losing a lot of games around and winning a lot. And it's just, they need to do a little bit better of the balance. And basically what they need to do is take from what they did in that 4-game stretch where they won 4 in a row, they need to figure out what they did that and then try to find a way to apply it to this season. But yeah, if you looking at their depth chart, I mean, Terry McLaurin, Samuel Curtis, Dotson is a new name there. They got Carson Wentz, like I said, at quarterback, then Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. So they have an offense that's all right. They have a few names on there, and that's Trey Turner at guard. I mean, they got some people. They got Logan Thomas at tight end, who's also good. It's just yeah. And then, for example, for defense, they got Chase Young, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. They still got the dominant front four. They got Cole Holcomb at linebacker, William Jackson III, Bobby McCain. I mean, they have some names, and they're on their team here and there. So this is definitely one of the better, below average, or even a little slightly above, or not even slightly above. I would say this is one of the either below average or average teams. This is one of the better one of those teams. And now it's just when it comes to their play, it's just going to be interesting to see what they do with Carson Wentz at quarterback this year, because there were some plays for Indy where he basically gave away the game and did a really bad job at finishing some games. And he had a lot of questionable plays, but then there was also some games where he played really well and were able to lead the team to a win. One of the best things Washington could have done is re-signing Terry McLaurin, because he is such a key piece in what they've been trying to do this year, and that for them to take that next step forward, they need to make sure they keep him on the roster. And now if you look at their play going into the next year, I mean, I see this is the start where the teams start to get a little bit better. I would say I see this team probably getting about 6 to 7 wins, probably. I could honestly even see maybe the 7 to 8. Jacksonville, if this team is as good as it should be, they should also go 2-0 to begin the year, and then maybe split between Dallas and Philly, maybe win one of those two, and then look at the rest of their schedule. I mean, they have a bunch of winnable games. I mean, there's a revenge game for Carson Wentz against the Colts on October 30th. Look, they have Jacksonville, Houston, so that should be 2 easy wins. They should beat Detroit if they can, because this team is very comparable to Detroit, but I would say their defense is a little bit better, so they should beat that team. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just they should beat the Giants. This team is just they're bad, but they aren't too terrible. So I mean, like looking at their schedule, they should have a few more wins, and they should play relatively well against some of their opponents. It's just like it's basically going to come down to Carson Wentz and what he can do for the offense. Because I mean, the offense last year, Taylor Heineke showed that it was all right. They just needed a little bit better quarterback to basically control and operate it a little bit better. Now that they're getting Carson Wentz and they paid him that money after the trade, it's going to be interesting to see what they can get out of him and see like what he can do for the team to moving forward. Because, like I said, I think he's a little bit of an upgrade over Heineke. It's just like with his bad can be really bad. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of the bad he can eliminate and then maybe what good he can turn that into. Because if he plays pretty good for this team could be a dangerous wild card team for some teams to play. When it comes to Commanders, I see them as a 6 to 8 win team-ish, but I think it's going to be about more the 6 to 7 range. And that's just solely because I think there's going to be some games where Carson Wentz pretty much loses them the game because they need to do a little bit here or do it a little bit there, and he might not do it. And then I think there's potential just besides that. I mean, if you watch the way their defense plays, I feel like they're due to basically give up a stinker against a really good team. So overall, I think the Commanders have a lot to look forward to in the next season. I mean, Dan Snyder is still the whole situation on him is still in question if he's going to be the owner or not. Their field is starting to get some upgrades, so hopefully it doesn't have its issues that it had like last year, for example, with like poop pipes bursting and just damage to the field itself just from being there. And then when it comes to like, they did have some issues with their coaching staff with Jack Del Rio, and he said some stuff, and he got fined for it. So it's going to be interesting because there's a lot going on outside of the building that might affect a little bit what's going on inside the building. And with all the issues that the Commanders has faced in years past, like their team president and Ron Rivera, and even I think the wife of Dan Snyder even is just trying to make this team like take a step forward and get behind all of this past stuff. And will they be able to? I have no idea. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Dan Snyder situation, to see how the new ownership, see if there is new ownership on that team or not. But for the most part, I mean, assuming that Dan Snyder does come back and all these problems get slightly fixed or whatever, I mean, this team has some potential, but it's going to be all based on like Carson Wentz's play